Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to talk about a topic which most of us would have heard of. We may not have known that we are exposed to it in everyday life. Some of us would be aware of that more. But primarily there are three things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the basics of artificial intelligence. We're going to talk about whether it is good or bad for us. And also, more importantly, that's the objective of this video, is we are going to try to assess the future of artificial intelligence. Okay, so let's start with my point of view. Now, in terms of artificial intelligence, many people have asked me, what is artificial intelligence? How can you define it? Well, I can define it in a very, very technical way with a lot of jargon putting in, but I have always struggled to put it in a simple line or in few words which everyone can understand. And that's an attempt that I'm going to make right now. So primarily, if you see artificial intelligence, that's so we can break it down into artificial and intelligence. That will help us understand it better. Now, artificial means something which is produced by a human being, and it is not naturally occurring. Okay, that is artificial. Intelligence is basically an ability to acquire knowledge, and you use that knowledge, the skill sets, to understand and think in a logical way, and you do something with this, right? You solve a problem, you do a task, anything. So when we talk about artificial intelligence, is primarily for our computers and robots to actually program in such a way that they are able to do uh, self-learning activities, and they are able to take decisions on their own without much help from us, from the human beings. So that's what we can call artificial intelligence. But I would like to tell you a little bit more on artificial intelligence, in the sense that the term artificial intelligence was first coined by John McCarthy, and that happened in 1956. And that happened because he was, he presented that, academic conference then. But actually, when you talk about artificial intelligence, you also talk about Alan Turing, because after John McCarthy, 5 years later than 1956, he came up with a paper, and the topic was, how can the machines mimic human beings, and how can that be more intelligent? So that was the topic. So that's where artificial intelligence actually started, per se. Now, we having talked about what is artificial intelligence, the definition part of it, let's talk more in terms of the evolution of artificial intelligence. So in the evolution of artificial intelligence, we can probably talk about the history first. So if you look at the history, in 1965, Eliza came out, and that was the first chatbot. Now you will say, what is a chatbot? Well, most of us are aware of, but I can make a separate video talking about chatbots later. Now, that happened way back in 1965. In 1997, there was a computer called Deep Blue. It defeated the best of the human being in chess. At that point of time, it was Garry Kasparov from Russia, and the machine defeated the best champion that we have at that point of time. Now, moving from 1997 to 2009, again, that's the year very important, because Google started building the self-driving car that year. That's where they started. Now in 2016, Google's DeepMind, they defeated the AlphaGo champion. And you will say, what is AlphaGo? AlphaGo is considered one of the most creative game in the world. You need to have really good creativity to actually compete in AlphaGo. So in that also, the champion from our end, from the human side, was defeated by the supercomputer. Now moving Little ahead, there are a lot of things that you must be hearing in the news that that's what has been done in artificial intelligence and machine learning, but we can talk about it little more later. Now, this brings us to the next section of the topic, which is what are the features of artificial intelligence. Now, I'm going to talk about features a little bit, not all the features, but according to me, the five important features, and those features actually laid the foundation of artificial intelligence. The first one is programming a computer to use a general language. Second one is to include a higher function that would mimic human brain. Now these features are very important, just listen to it carefully. The third feature is of self-improvement. Fourth is be able to creative enough so that you can actually solve a problem. Fifth one that I can say is also the ability to understand the complexity of problem. So these are the five features of artificial intelligence which was laid down way back in 1950s and 60s, and that laid the foundation, like I mentioned, for the artificial intelligence growth. Now, with this, we can talk about the evolution part of it, not dwelling much into it, considering the time we have, but we can certainly say that artificial intelligence started with very, very basic step. They were supposed to do very basic things at the start, and as it progressed, they started to do more complex activities over the period of time. And recently, actually experience artificial intelligence in our day-to-day life when you operate your mobile phone. You have your smart machines. You talk about robots. You have your computers in your work area. Everywhere, artificial intelligence and is coming in. Now, with this, it would be interesting to also talk about the next topic, which is going to be how artificial intelligence works. Now, in artificial intelligence, there are two important things that it does. One, it does the self-learning. That's one of the features that we talked about some time back. And the second one is it is able to make decisions. But you'll ask how an artificial intelligence can do it. So the science which is helping and that's working in the background is called machine learning. And machine learning, all it does is it helps a computer or a robot to learn to get better, and it's able to make better decisions, and the predictions that they make, the success rate is phenomenally high, better than a human being, and that's why they've been winning. When you talk about the games, you talk about the intelligent test, they are just right up. Okay, under the topic how artificial intelligence works, there are two concepts that's important to at least know from the layman perspective. One is algorithm. What is algorithm? And second is neural network. Okay, now not getting too much into the technicality part of it, but an algorithm is a set of instruction to solve a particular problem. We don't talk about, if we upload a video in the YouTube, how does the Google algorithm work? So again, there's a set of instruction, a very sophisticated algorithm that works at the back end. So that's where the algorithm comes into play. Second thing is neural network. Now that's one is a very, very important topic to understand. There's a lot of technicality involved, but I'll try to sum it up in a line or so, just for the understanding perspective. Now, neural network is nothing but it tries to mimic the human brain, because human is considered the smartest thing ever in the world. So it tries to mimic the brain. It has numerous artificial neurons, and that's when they work. So there's weight is applied on how they work. They do a logical thinking, and along with those features and a lot more, they actually try to work on something. They come up with a decision which works at the back end, much like the human brain. Okay, and that's where actually it helps in deep learning. So all the supercomputers that we talked about, much of those things are actually based on deep learning. Okay, as you can see that it's even becoming better. The computers, the robots, they are becoming smarter and smarter as it progresses. We have smart robots. We have smarter appliances. We even have humanoids. You know, there are robots who tries to act like a human. They look like human. That's how they've been made. But again, that's an artificial thing that we are talking about. Next in the agenda, we should talk about is what are the seeds of threat. Let me call you what is a seed of threat. There are some of the things in artificial intelligence, some of the features currently, which will actually challenge the human mankind, and that's why we call it threat, because it's not there yet, but that's where it's going to start. So, based on my research and my study, there are 5 seeds of threat, seeds of threat, I must say, can be considered. First is, as we progress, we are making the machines more and more self-reliant. We want them to make their own decision without much of our interference. So that's the first thing. So as they are able to do more and more of those stuff, they become more and more independent of human influence. Number 2, now most of us would have heard about Charles Darwin's law of survival, the fittest, yeah? So as and when the machines are getting smarter, they are getting better, they are becoming self-aware, because we try to have that kind of component where they try to have an identity of their own, though it's still in a very initial stage. So as it progresses, and later on, once they become more and more self-aware, that law of survival of the fittest will kick in, and then they will try, naturally they are going to declare themselves as an artificial species, as a different species which needs to survive, and that will compete against human beings naturally. And if you see today, when they don't have that ability, they are already way, way, way too smart than us. Once they have that ability to have their own entity, when they are self-aware of themselves, then you can see the real situation coming in. So that's the second point. Third is, we just talked about it, that is self-awareness and self-conscience. So when you actually make machines to become self-aware, to have their own conscience, to think and to make decisions on their own, that is actually the path which actually takes them to being a separate entity in itself. Fourth is ability to differentiate between them and human. Again, the more they grow, the more they become independent, the more they are different from us, from human beings. Yeah. So that's one thing is going to become threat in future and in the time to come. The fifth and last that I have for now today is the ability to hurt with ruthless logic. Now, these machines do not have emotions. We can try to put emotions on them, but that's emotional for them is kind of program which can be fed in, but it's not necessarily required. So if they become self-aware, they don't have to be emotionally charged to actually make a decision. So once it makes logic to have a superior being in terms of the calculations, in terms of the thinking, in terms of the decision making, then probably they would think that human is a redundant species, and the earth can do much better with smarter beings on here. Okay, so those are the 5 features and the seeds of threat to mankind that I've called it over here. Now, with this, there are 2 more topics that we can talk about. So there are increasingly celebrities and successful entrepreneurs, also who are very successful in the technology side. They have expressed their concern in artificial intelligence, maybe not now, but in coming future. So in future, how that's going to impact mankind, probably that's what we would be talking about, and also our perspective of when this may happen, when this is going to happen, and also we're going to talk about my point of view and the future, and the next topic that we have in mind. So we can talk about in the series 2 of the video. So please do subscribe to get the next series, and then we'll talk and we can meet tomorrow. Okay. Thank you for staying so far. Thanks for listening to me. Stay safe.